We shall never surrender.
All hope abandon, ye who enter in. For a long time, the inner earth was a mysterious place, supposedly the reign of demons, home to ancient gods, like Pluto, and place of eternal damnation. Italian poet Dante Alighieri imagined an especially elaborate version of hell in his Divine Comedy. He included in his description the 9 circles of hell, with Lucifer residing in the lowest, real landscapes and geological features. According to author Marco Romano, in the description of Dante's Inferno we find earthquakes, rivers, mountains, landslides, a desert of scorching sand and even some types of rocks, like the famous marble of Carrara. Dante imagined hell like an inverted cone, with its circles gradually becoming smaller nearer to Earth's core. Each circle was dedicated to a sin and the sin's related punishment. This image is based on calculations of Greek philosophers, like Eratosthenes of Syria or Claudius Ptolemy, who argued that Earth is a sphere. Hell, as part of Earth, would have to be cone-shaped. Dante even gives an exact value of Earth's radius of 3,250 miles, it's actually 3,959 miles. The cone, according to Dante, formed when Lucifer, the fallen angel, fell to Earth. The impact of the fall was so great that it even reshaped Earth's surface. Continents were uplifted on the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere lowered and was covered by the sea. Dante didn't know about Australia and Antarctica. In Dante's writing, only Mount Purgatory can be found in the south. Purgatory, together with the holy city of Jerusalem, forms an axis passing through Earth, with Lucifer's belly as center of Earth and the universe. This is an allegoric image, showing Lucifer is damned as far as possible away from the sun and the divine light. When entering hell, Dante is guided by the shadow of the ancient Roman poet Publius Virgilius Maro, better known as Virgil. During his pilgrimage from hell to purgatory to paradise, the way is obstructed by ruins, destroyed, as one demon reveals to Virgil, by an ancient earthquake. Like the ruins this side of Trent left by the landslide, an earthquake or erosion must have caused it that hit the Adige on its left bank, when, formed the mountain's top where the slide began to the plain below. The shattered rocks slipped down, shaping a path for a difficult descent. So was the slope of our ravine's formation. Here, Dante describes a 3,000 years old landslide in the Adige Valley, even arguing that the cause of this ancient landslide was erosion or an earthquake. Dante may have visited this site, as he lived for a time in the nearby city of Verona. It's certain he used German naturalist Albertus Magnus as a reference, as Magnus argued that by the river eroding the base of the mountain it had collapsed, forming the ruined landscape of the landslide. Dante also experiences an earthquake at the shores of the river Acheron, one of the rivers flowing in hell. Dante, following in part contemporary explanations of earthquakes, mentions that vapors blowing inside the caverns of Earth and exploding from time to time are shaking the entire Earth. It's curious to note that Dante didn't describe hell filled by fire, even though Mount Etna and Vesuvius were regarded in ancient times as gates to hell and both mountains seem to be filled by liquid fire. However, Etna is mentioned when referring to the island of Sicily, as a site with sulfur vapors. The Phlegethon and some minor rivers are described as rivers of boiling blood with lithified myogens, like, so Dante writes, the hot springs of Bulli came near the city of Viterbo in the Lazio region. There may be a simple explanation why Dante didn't include volcanoes more prominently in his work. Both Etna and Vesuvius were at the time relatively calm. Vesuvius erupted only in 1321–1323, and so may have been of no real interest to the poet. In Dante's Inferno, geology even plays a role in the punishment of the sinners. In the third circle, the Simonists, people who sold holy artifacts for profit, are driven upside down into the ground and squeezed tightly in the fissures of the rock. The robbers are punished in a circle filled with poisonous snakes. Dante describes looking down into the pit. Within this cruel and bitterest abundance people ran terrified and naked, hopeless of finding hiding holes or heliotrope. Their hands were tied behind their backs with serpents. Heliotrope, a variety of chalcedony, was a gemstone much valued for its magical properties in ancient times, and one use was to protect from the venom of snakes. As the gate to hell promised, there is no hope for the sinners to find such a talisman here and escape, even only temporarily, their punishment. After the inferno, Dante finally reaches the mountainous landscape of purgatory, leaving hell behind. The climb had sapped my last strength when I cried, "Sweet Father, turn to me. Unless you pause I shall be left here on the mountainside." He pointed to a ledge a little ahead that wound round the whole face of the slope. "Pull yourself that much higher, my son," he said. His words so spurred me that I forced myself to push on after him on hands and knees until at last my feet were on that shelf. The Divine Comedy is appreciated today as a masterpiece of world poetry. But Dante also included a lot of his contemporary knowledge, providing an important source to better understand the earth sciences of the 14th century. Da Vinci Code author Dan Brown's new book borrows its title and theme from Dante's Inferno, an account of the Italian poet's imagined journey through hell. We will now list a 10-point tour of the underworld. 1. Hell is conical. Hell, as Dante described it, consists of 9 concentric circles, going deeper each time as they get smaller, towards the center of the earth. Which of the 9 you are condemned to depends on your sin, with circles devoted to gluttons, heretics and fraudsters. The center point of the surface of the cone is Jerusalem. The river Acheron runs around hell, separating it from the outside world. Outside hell itself, but still part of the scheme, there are the people who somehow never did anything good or evil in their lifetime. Even they are punished for their neutrality, running round for eternity being stung by wasps while maggots drink their blood. 2. Hell is diverse. The modern cartoon image of hell, with flames and pitchforks for everyone, is tragically bland compared with medieval depictions. This modern version is probably the legacy of Milton, who in Paradise Lost describes hell as one great furnace whose flames offer no light, but rather darkness visible. Then again, he is setting it in the time of Adam and Eve when its only population is demons, so even his hell might have livened up a bit later. In the medieval hell explored by Dante and painted by Hieronymus Bosch, punishments are as varied as sin itself, each one shaped to fit the sin punished. In Dante, sowers of discord are cut to pieces, those who take their own lives are condemned to live as mere trees, flatterers swim in a stream of excrement, and a traitor spends eternity having his head eaten by the man he betrayed. In Bosch, one man has a harp strung through his flesh while another is forced to marry a pig in a nun's wimple, and other people are excreted by monsters. This hell is not a fixed penalty, but the fruition of bad choices made during our lives. 3. Hell is underground. Maybe in the Middle Ages, people generally thought of hell as being underground, and there were legends of travelers seeing its smoke coming up through holes in the ground. Dante agreed, and because he assumed that the earth was round, he had Satan at the bottom of hell, with his waist the center of earth's gravity. Milton's hell, however, is far from earth. Paradise Lost is set in the time of Adam and Eve when the earth was still perfect, so it would be incongruous for hell to be in the center of it. Dante manages to do the whole tour of hell, purgatory and heaven in less than a week. Meanwhile it takes Milton's Satan 9 days just to fall from heaven to hell. Road sign, Via dell'Inferno 4. Hell can freeze over. Actually it can be pretty sweltering, especially in Milton, who describes hills, caves, beaches and bogs of fire. Dante has a river of boiling blood for people guilty of bloodshed, tombs of fire for heretics, and a desert where it rains flakes of fire on blasphemers, usurers and homosexuals. But many of Dante's circles aren't fiery. In the second circle, the lustful are blown about by strong winds, while the gluttons in the third are subjected to sleet and sludge. In the 9th and deepest circle of hell, Satan himself is encased in ice to his waist. For the devil, it's always a cold day in hell. Even for Milton, beyond the fire plains of hell there are regions of ice, hail, snow and wind, where the damned are taken on forced excursions. The change offers no respite, as cold performs the effect of fire, and in fact the variation only makes things worse. 5. Hell is other people, and their real sympathy for the devil. Hell is full of popes. Milton's hell doesn't have any people in it yet, though it would surely have an abundance of popes when the time came. But even for ardent Catholics, the Vatican provided a wealth of damnations. Dante finds many popes in hell, including Anastasius II for heresy and Nicholas III for buying episcopal office. The Catholic scholar Erasmus wrote a dialogue called Julius Excluded, where Pope Julius II is rudely turned away from the pearly gates for his many sins. Michelangelo, in his fresco The Last Judgment in the Sistine Chapel, shows real people being pulled down to hell, including Biagio da Cesena, the Pope's master of ceremonies, who opposed the artist's depiction of nudity and is shown with a snake eating his genitals. Dante's Inferno includes many people he knew personally, and not just enemies. He is shocked to see his friend and teacher Brunetto Latini suffering the punishment for violence because his sex life did violence to the natural order. At the bottommost pit of hell, 3 real people are eternally eaten by a 3-headed Satan, the arch-traitors Cassius, Brutus and worst of all, because headfirst, Judas. With 6 eyes did he weep, and down 3 chins, trickled the teardrops and the bloody drivel. 6. Hell is unreal creatures. Hell is full of creatures from pagan myth. Dante sees centaurs and harpies, the Minotaur, and the 3-headed dog Cerberus. Michelangelo includes Charon and Minos, the boatman and judge of the Greek underworld. Even Milton puts Medusa and Hydras there. Frieze of Medusa from Temple in Turkey 7. Hell is pandemonium. Pandemonium, all the demons, although it has come to mean noisy chaos, is a word Milton invented for the capital city of hell, where Satan and his followers meet for their infernal parliament. Milton also coined the phrase all hell broke loose, which again did not originally refer to noisy chaos, but to demons escaping. When Satan arrives at Eden to tempt Adam and Eve, Gabriel asks him, "Wherefore with thee, came not all hell broke loose?" Scene from Dante's Inferno, illustrated by 19th-century artist Gustave Doré. Hell is gated. Dante's gate is famously inscribed "Abandon all hope, ye who enter here." Less famously, this is only the last of a 9-line inscription, which includes the claim that the realm within was created by the highest wisdom and the primal love. In Paradise Lost there are 9 gates, 3 of brass, 3 of iron, and 3 of adamantine rock, and they are guarded by sin, death and the ever-barking hounds of hell. 9. Hell isn't all that interested in sex. Christianity may have a bad name for obsession with people's sex lives, but sex doesn't feature very prominently in the behavior punished in hell. Admittedly, Brunetto Latini is treated harshly in the 7th circle for unnatural sex, but mere sins of lust are dealt with in the 2nd circle, the first being limbo, a pretty nice place for unbaptized babies and sinless non-Christians, making it the least of sins. 10. Hell isn't all that biblical. Very few of these ideas are from the Bible. The Bible does refer to hell and its fires, but more of the details in Dante are drawn from Greek and Roman myths, and the vast majority are the creation of medieval Western imagination. Eastern Christian artists never shared their interest, and even in the West it was a late development. The doctrine of perpetual torment was propounded by the Lateran Council of 1215, just a century before Dante wrote. In modern times, Christians have become increasingly skeptical about hell. There are 622 verses in the Bible, in the New International Version, which mention heaven, and 15 that mention hell.